When I woke up, I was back at the moment right after he lost his sight. This time, I didn't dare stir up trouble anymore. No one knew how much pain I'd endured in my previous life, only I remembered every detail, every mistake, every regret. So now I stayed away from him. I didn't approach, didn't provoke, and certainly didn't join the crowd in bullying him like before. Those idiots had no idea what was coming for them. How, once he regained his sight, he'd settle the score with every single one of them. Ruthlessly. I was just trying to survive. But fate seemed to have a different plan. Every time I tried to keep my distance, I somehow ended up witnessing him getting picked on again. And every time, I couldn't help but step in. Helping him once or twice didn't mean anything. Letting him stay over once or twice didn't mean anything either. But who could have predicted that one help would lead to another, all the way to the bed? Just when I started to panic and wanted to stop whatever this was turning into, he brought me to the very villa from our past life. He stood before me quiet, composed, eyes still blind. Then, in a low voice that sent chills down my spine, he said, "You came back too, didn't you? Welcome to History Channel. Subscribe to follow all our latest adventures." Story begins. Charles Travers. That was the last thing I heard before my consciousness faded into darkness. Who had called out to me? It felt familiar. Charles Travers. The voice rang out again by my ear, but this time it wasn't the same. This voice was laced with nothing but irritation and disgust. I snapped back to reality, and what I saw made my blood run cold. I was crouched in front of Frederick Clark, gripping his chin in my hand. Our faces were inches apart, close enough for me to see clearly the colorless, empty look in his eyes. "You're blind again?" He scoffed coldly. "Again? When was I ever not?" His voice was icy, so cold it cut like a blade, like he was talking to an enemy, not a person. That tone. It had been years since I'd heard him speak to me that way. My fingers unclenched from his jaw as though burned. And it hit me all at once. Frederick Clark looked younger. It wasn't just him. I was younger too. I had been reborn. Yes, I had come back to life. And not just anywhere. I had landed right in the middle of the time when Frederick Clark had just gone blind. Back when I had been egged on by others to go mess with him. "Charles Travers, is that all you've got?" You used to flinch just seeing me. You couldn't even look me in the eye, trembling like some scared little mutt. Frederick was still on the ground, dirt clinging to his clothes. Yet even in that sorry state, he still looked beautiful, cold and distant, but stunning all the same. I bit my lip. I wanted to say something, but in the end, I stayed silent. I just reached out and helped him up. Once he stood, towering over me even then, I forced the words out of my throat. "I'm sorry. Look, you probably won't believe me, but I didn't mean for this to happen. I swear it won't happen again. I was being stupid today." Frederick said nothing. Lips tight, his expression unreadable. I turned and started walking away, but then I caught sight of the wound on his arm. I hesitated, then walked back to him, pulled out my wallet, stuffed a few bills into his hand. "Use this to get something for your wound. I really am sorry. I promise it won't." Before I could even finish, he flung the money right back at me. "Is this some new way to humiliate me?" he sneered. "Or are you trying to pity me now?" I froze, stunned for a moment, then bent down to pick the bills off the ground. Why couldn't I have been reborn a little earlier? Just a few days sooner, and I wouldn't have been here doing something so despicable to him. Others might not know. But I did. That Frederick Clark, blind from a car accident, kicked out of the family company by his own uncle, this pitiful version of him, would rise to become one of the most powerful men of our time. And those of us who took advantage of his weakness? Who bullied him while he was down? We were destined for ruin. I was the only one who knew the truth. And if fate had given me a second chance, I sure as hell wasn't going to waste it. The first step to surviving this time was simple. Stay far, far away from Frederick Clark. I couldn't afford to get involved in anything related to him. Just thinking about how he'd locked me up in that villa in the last life, tormenting me day after day, it made me shudder. "You're afraid of me?" he asked. "I'm already like this and you're still afraid?" My hand was still on his arm. The slight tremble, he had noticed it. I quickly pulled my hand away. No, of course not. I'm not afraid. And I already explained, someone set me up today. That's why I did this to you. I know you're not going to stay like this forever. So when you do recover, could you maybe not hold a grudge against me? Frederick snorted coldly. And I slapped myself on the forehead. Why was I even saying all this? I should have just left. But then I saw the wound on his arm again. And I hesitated. Wait here, okay? I'll be right back. I promise. I'll come back. I turned and ran. Ran all the way to a pharmacy just outside the alley and bought a bag full of supplies for treating injuries. I didn't know if Frederick had any money right now. But I remembered all too well how badly he was treated in the past. This stuff would come in handy sooner or later. After I paid, I took off running again, scared he might be gone by the time I returned. But luckily, he was still there. Standing in the same spot, unmoving. I got you some medicine for your injuries. Treat your wounds properly, okay? If you can't do it yourself, find someone to help. Don't let it scar. Also, take the money. Grab a cab and get home. I'm going now. I shoved the bag into his hand without waiting for a response. Then ran back toward the alley entrance. I couldn't help myself, I turned back to look. Frederick was still standing there. Still holding the medicine I gave him. He hadn't thrown it away. Maybe now, we were even. Sure, I'd done a lot of terrible things in our past life. But he'd returned the favor with every bit of cruelty he could muster. During the last stretch of my previous life, I had been utterly miserable. That night had been my final attempt to escape, and Frederick Clark had dragged me back, furious beyond belief. From then on, he didn't even let me roam around the villa. I was confined to the bedroom, chained to that massive bed. The marks on my body overlapped, day after day. They never had a chance to fade. And the image I had of Frederick, the cold, untouchable flower on the mountaintop, crumbled into ruins during those days. No one that detached, that noble, would do something like that to another person. He had only been good at hiding it. I lowered my gaze, trying to push down the flood of emotions rising in my chest. It's fine. That past life was just a bad dream. A long, brutal nightmare. This time, everything was different. I had a second chance. And all I wanted in this life was to stay far away from Frederick Clark and save my family's company. If I could do that, and live a peaceful, happy life with my loved ones, that would be enough. Just as I got home, the phone rang. I picked it up instinctively. The voice on the other end sounded excited. Well, Charles Travers, you found Frederick Clark, didn't you? Did you teach him a lesson? Larry Fuller, an entitled trust fund brat with more money than brains. He spent his days partying and bullying people. Never had the guts to get his hands dirty, though. Always pushed others to do it for him. In my last life, it had been Larry Fuller who urged me to go after Frederick. He always somehow knew where Frederick was going to be, feeding me his whereabouts like breadcrumbs, whispering just the right words to provoke me until I snapped. If half of my downfall had been my own fault, the other half belonged to Larry Fuller. I used to think he was genuinely on my side, helping me get revenge, standing up for me. But the truth was, I was nothing more than a pawn to him. After Frederick regained control, Larry was the first to flip sides, running to pledge loyalty like a rat abandoning ship. And of course, he sold me out. Told Frederick exactly where I was hiding, hoping to score points and earn some favor. But Frederick wasn't stupid. He found me, punished me, and he dealt with Larry Fuller even more brutally. After that, I never heard another word about the Fuller family in the capital. Charles Travers? Are you listening to me? Don't tell me you didn't go. I worked hard to find out where he was, and now you're just... Are you done talking? What? I was already losing patience. If you're done, I'm hanging up. Don't ever call me for this crap again. You and I have nothing to do with each other. I must have been blind to ever think of you as a friend. I hung up without waiting for a response. I wasn't going to waste my energy dealing with Larry Fuller. For one, I didn't have the power. Sure, my family was well off even among the capital's elite. But the one holding the real power was my mom. Then my brother. Then my dad. I was dead last. My one job? Spend money and don't cause trouble. In my last life, I didn't listen. This time, I treated those words like gospel. Even if I did retaliate, all I'd manage was giving Larry a black eye. He wouldn't learn his lesson. He envied Frederick too much. He'd just find new ways to hurt him. So I didn't have to do a thing. I just had to wait until Frederick struck back. Thinking about all the fake friends from my past life made my stomach turn. I took out my phone and deleted all of them, only keeping the handful of people who had been real to me, including Edward Howard. Edward had been my childhood friend. In the last life, when I was locked away by Frederick, he had tried to rescue me. But a single person can't fight a giant. His family wasn't even on the same level as mine, let alone the Clarks. Even with all his courage, he hadn't been able to save me. But that final moment, that voice shouting my name through fire and smoke, was it Edward? I couldn't think about it anymore. I shut off my phone and finally got some real sleep. God, it felt good. I hadn't felt this free in ages. Looking back now, I had no idea what had possessed me to act the way I did in that last life. Throwing myself into chaos, ruining everything, until it ended in death. You're really giving up on Frederick Clark? I thought you'd jump at the chance to be his savior now that the mighty icebergs melted into the mud. Edward raised an eyebrow at me. I'm done, I said, glancing at him. We were never right for each other. Come on, look at me, I've always wanted to be the top. You really think someone with that height and that build is gonna bottom for me? Edward gave me a very pointed look. Charles Travers, having goals is great. But maybe check in with reality once in a while, yeah? I scowled. I knew he didn't believe me. Last life, I'd been forced into the bottom role when Frederick locked me up. But this time would be different. This time, I was going to be the top. I looked down at my watch, getting ready to head home. But when I looked up, there he was. Frederick Clark. And in front of him stood a group of people, their body language hostile, their words sharp and mocking. They were verbally tearing into him. I looked away quickly, jaw clenching on instinct. What was a blind man doing at a bar anyway? Didn't he know everyone was tracking his every move? Waiting for an excuse to humiliate him? He was practically asking to be bullied. Hey, it's Frederick Clark, Edward said. You're seriously not going to take a look? What for? I told you, I've got nothing to do with him anymore. But let's hope you mean it. I tightened my grip around my glass. From across the room, I could still hear them. Poking, prodding, provoking Frederick Clark. The man speaking had a filthy tone, like he was trying to coax Frederick Clark into leaving with him, saying he'd pay him a little something. The others around them started laughing, jeering, playing along. I couldn't take it anymore. I put down my glass and stood up. Next to me, Edward Howard raised an eyebrow. What's this? Gonna play the hero now? Nope. I'm going home. I grabbed Edward and started walking out. But just before reaching the door, I glanced back and locked eyes with Frederick Clark. Which was ridiculous. He couldn't see. He had just randomly turned his head. There was no way he knew I was standing there. But I still froze in my tracks. Edward nearly bumped into me from behind. He followed my gaze and smirked, patting my shoulder. Don't overthink it. If you feel bad, just go bring him out of there. Who knows, maybe he'll fall for his knight in shining armor. And hey, a bottom-leaning top is still a top, you know. Edward Howard, that damn loudmouth. I shot him a glare, but still found myself turning back and walking toward Frederick. Screw it. Helping him once wouldn't change anything. At most, it'd cancel out that one time I bullied him. Getting him out of there turned out to be surprisingly easy. Everyone at the bar recognized me. No one dared offend the Travers family, and especially not my brother. So they all backed off without a word. Seriously, what were you thinking? Blind and still coming to places like this? You haven't even finished treatment, and you're out drinking? Frederick Clark, you're really something. I was pulling him along as I scolded him, completely forgetting that he couldn't see. I walked too fast, nearly tripping him. I quickly turned back and caught him in my arms. Stabilized him. Sorry, I muttered. I shouldn't have snapped at you. Just don't come back to places like this. I'll get you a ride. Go home, okay? Before getting in the car, Frederick suddenly said, Charles Travers, you've changed a lot. I stiffened. For a second, I thought he had figured out I'd been reborn. But no, that was impossible. Changed? Please. I'm still me. You don't know me that well. I'm just not interested in you anymore, that's all. Don't want anything to do with you. I turned to leave, but he caught my wrist. His fingers brushed lightly across my skin. No longer interested, huh? That's good. Then he let go and shut the car door behind him. I stood there, watching the car disappear down the street. What was that? Edward asked behind me. Having second thoughts? Or are you just playing the long game now? I didn't fire back. I just murmured, Edward, I thought I wanted the moonlight to shine only on me. But maybe I just wanted it to always be up there, high above. Maybe, in my last life, all the resentment came from being rejected. Back then, I tried to pursue Frederick and got turned down hard. But now, with everything rewound, I realized what I wanted wasn't really his love. I just didn't want to see him humiliated. Didn't want to see him dragged through the mud. Even if he looked down on me. Even if he didn't like me. It was fine. I just couldn't stand watching this world break him. Even with a second chance, I still couldn't control myself. I thought that night would be the last time we crossed paths. But I was wrong. I kept running into him. Over and over again. Always when he was being bullied. And if I was already there, how could I not step in? Even stranger. No matter where I stood, what corner I hid in. Frederick Clark always managed to find me. He'd glance in my direction, soft, confused, a little wronged, then stubbornly turn away without asking for help. Who could resist that? Who wouldn't be moved? Not me. I couldn't resist at all. So I helped. Every time. Lucky for me, my brother had made huge progress with the company. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had the power to protect Frederick like this. Over time, people in our circle started whispering. They said I'd conquered Frederick Clark. That he was mine now. That I was his shield. The more cowardly ones didn't dare mess with him anymore. Is it true, someone asked me once, that you put a tracking chip on Frederick Clark? They say you always show up within 5 minutes whenever he's in trouble. What do you have to say about that? Blatant slander. I'm starting to think they chipped me. Why else would I always show up just in time to see him get cornered? It's a setup. I'm telling you, I groaned. Edward just looked at me and said, I know you. But are you really not interested in Frederick Clark anymore? I ran a hand through my hair. I'm not. Then why do you keep saving him? If this keeps up, even if he doesn't like you now, he'll fall for you just out of gratitude. He won't. How do you know? Because I've been there. Because in my last life, we spent so much time together. We did everything. Everything. But he never once looked at me with love. Never softened toward me. Frederick Clark is the kind of person who never forgets a grudge. We'd done such intimate things again and again, but it never made him fall for me. Why would a few heroic rescues change that? He just won't. Trust me, I said. Anyway, aren't you late for that blind date your grandpa set up? Don't remind me. I'm going. Later. I waved him off and sighed. This couldn't keep going. The rumors were already bad enough. But then again, maybe it wasn't such a terrible thing. Helping Frederick now, just a little, meant that one day when my family faced a crisis, he might remember who stood by him. There was no way he'd help us. Not after what happened in the last life. Back then, I was the one who voluntarily went to Frederick Clark, because my family had run into a major financial crisis. And at that time, the only person who had the power and resources to help us was him. So I sought him out. We made a deal. I'd stay by his side for a year, and he'd help my family. That was the arrangement. But when the year ended, he had no intention of letting me go. And thus began the most exhausting period of my life. Me running, him chasing. Over and over again. Once I made peace with that memory, I didn't feel so conflicted anymore. And as soon as the mental stress lifted, my stomach reminded me I hadn't eaten all day. There wasn't much to eat at home. So I tossed on a jacket and headed out. Who would have thought? Who would have guessed that fate would mess with me again? Just as I walked out the gate of the neighborhood, I saw someone dump a full cup of Coke on Frederick Clark's head. Hey, what the hell are you doing? The guy didn't even turn around. He bolted. And I was wearing slippers. There was no way I could catch up. So I gave up the chase and walked back to Frederick. What are you doing out here? That guy just poured Coke on your head. Why didn't you dodge? Frederick stood in front of me obediently. Coke was still dripping from his hair. His clothes were soaked through. I didn't have any tissues on me, so I pulled off my jacket and gently wiped his face. I didn't react in time. He rushed at me out of nowhere. I paused. Okay, maybe I was being a little unreasonable expecting him to see it coming. Never mind. Just don't go out alone anymore, alright? Come to my place. Take a shower. Frederick shook his head. You've already helped me too much lately. I don't want to trouble you again. I'll handle it myself. Funny, he wasn't this polite before. Now he's suddenly playing modest. I grabbed his hand without another word. Don't give me that. Have you eaten dinner yet? Then come eat with me. Okay. Thank you. Don't mention it. As we walked, I kept my eyes on the ground, guiding him over curbs and bumps. What I didn't notice was the faint curve of a smile forming at the corner of his lips. Back at my place, I thought about grabbing some of my clothes for him to change into, but after taking a good look at our height difference, I gave up. He'd never fit into my stuff. That would just be awkward for both of us. So I led him to the bathroom instead. I'll have you touch around a bit so you know where things are. If you need anything, just call. I'll be right outside. You probably won't fit into my clothes, so just wear the bathrobe for now. I'll order you a set of clothes online. I was just about to leave when he grabbed my wrist. Aren't you going to ask me what size I wear? Do I need to? Damn it. I knew his size. Intimately. From the last life. But in this life, we hadn't gotten anywhere near that close. I forced myself to swallow the rest of the sentence. What size are you? He gave me his measurements. When I heard his size, including his underwear size, I clenched my jaw slightly. God, the universe really did play favorites. Frederick may be blind, but he had zero trouble navigating a shower. He finished quickly. Charles Travers. Where's the bathrobe? What? Oh, it's... I scanned the room. I'd taken it out earlier and forgot to bring it back in. It's outside. I'll leave it by the door. Bring it in. I don't mind. I can't see anyway. Yeah, he can't see. But I can. Still, if he had to fumble around trying to find the robe, he might slip or fall. That would be worse. So I braced myself and stepped into the bathroom. With my eyes squeezed shut, of course. Only navigating blind isn't easy. My foot slipped. And I fell straight into Frederick Clark's arms. Right into his bare chest. With only a robe between us. And something... What's that? Frederick Clark, something just poked me. After escaping the bathroom, I practically fled to my bedroom and slammed the door shut. I didn't even care what Frederick did next. God, I was so stupid. Like I didn't know what that was? He wasn't wearing clothes. I was in thin pajamas. There was nothing between us that could be mistaken for a belt buckle. What the hell else could it have been? Charles Travers. You get a second shot at life, and somehow you've become more innocent? What did Frederick say back there? He was probably caught off guard too. Didn't expect me to say something like that. We were both awkward as hell. Except now, he was cool and calm. I was the only one flustered to death. He just laughed and said, "Didn't expect you to be this innocent, Charles. Haven't had anyone around these past few years. Truth is, in both this life and the last one, I only ever had Frederick Clark. I fell for him the moment I realized my orientation. From the moment we first crossed paths, I couldn't take my eyes off him. I chased him, confessed to him, again and again, but he never felt the same. He rejected me, brutally, in front of everyone. Said he wasn't interested in childish brats like me. I'd always been a proud person, spoiled by my family, used to getting my way. So when I got rejected like that, I snapped. I hated him, and that hate fueled everything I did to him afterward. But love, or revenge, should be mutual. At some point I stopped wanting payback. But by the time I wanted to let go, it was already too late. The people around me didn't let me back out. They wouldn't let me stop. And they definitely didn't want me helping Frederick Clark. So I got dragged along. One mistake after another. One act of cruelty after the next. That ending in my last life. Yeah, I had to admit, I brought a lot of it on myself. I played stupid games. I won stupid prizes. So now that I'd come back, of course I wasn't looking to get involved with anyone else right away. There hadn't been, and still wasn't, any other guy in my life. But this life was going to be different. I'd meet someone new eventually. Once Frederick Clark got back on his feet, I'd be able to step away with my dignity intact. Maybe even leverage the goodwill into a little collaboration for my brother's company. Thinking about that, all that earlier awkwardness and embarrassment faded away. What was there to be shy about? We're both men. It's not like Frederick Clark's interested in me that way right now. A little accidental contact? Big deal. Straight guys pat each other on the ass during basketball games and no one bats an eye. So what happened between us? Not worth overthinking. I just managed to calm my racing thoughts, ready to go check on Frederick, when my phone rang. It was my dad. Faded. Weren't you and Mom off enjoying some stress-free vacation time? What's up? Don't give me that, you little punk. You tell me, what the hell have you been up to lately? Why are you suddenly so close to that Frederick Clark kid? Crap. News had reached even him? And usually, when he and Mom were off traveling, they didn't want anyone disturbing them, world ending or not. It's nothing really. We're just friends. Friends? Charles Travers, I don't care who you hang out with, but you can't be friends with him. You know what kind of mess his family's in? Do you have any idea what kind of man his uncle is? Do you know if that car accident of his was really an accident? Or if someone made it happen? That man didn't even spare his own nephew. You think he's going to blink before turning on you? You need to grow up and stop making your mom and me worry so damn much. I knew my dad was just concerned. But this wasn't something I could just step away from anymore. Everyone in our social circle already knew about me and Frederick. Everyone talked. And yeah, his accident, it was planned. His uncle was behind it. I knew all that already. I'd known it in my last life. If I didn't have my memories from before, maybe my dad's warning would have shaken me. Maybe I would have listened. But I did remember. I remembered exactly what was coming in a few years. A disaster that would hit my family hard. And the only one who could help us through it was Frederick Clark. So no, I couldn't cut ties now. I couldn't walk away, even if I wanted to. I got it, Dad. I'll be careful. I'll listen to you. You better. I just don't get it. What do you even see in that kid from the Clark family? There's a million pretty faces out there. Why him? There are a million pretty faces. But none of them look like that. Forget it. I'd never be able to explain to my straight dad. No point arguing. So I just kept agreeing with everything he said, making promises left and right. And when he finally hung up, he made me swear again. No more contact with Frederick Clark. I swear. No more seeing Frederick. Happy now. Good. Keep your word. Or I'll tell your brother to cut your allowance. The second the call ended, I exhaled hard and leaned back. Then I got up to leave the room. And found Frederick Clark standing at my bedroom door. I had no idea when he got there. But judging by his expression, he definitely heard the whole call. Damn it. I rushed over to him. You heard all that, didn't you? He nodded. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cause you trouble. If being around me is going to get you in trouble with your family, I'll leave. It's still early, I can head home now. And he turned to go. But how could I let him? If I let him leave now, what was all my effort for? I grabbed his wrist quickly. No. No way. That was just me trying to appease my dad, okay? I don't see you as a burden. Don't overthink it. Really? Of course. Come on, Frederick. You know me better than that. Okay, maybe he didn't. Not really. But I wasn't about to admit that. Eventually, I got him settled again. The clothes I ordered for him had arrived. Once he changed, I offered to take him home. But when I asked for his address, he hesitated. Are you hiding something from me? I frowned. You don't trust me enough to tell me where you live? I'll just call a cab and let the driver take you. I couldn't hide my disappointment. I really thought we'd gotten closer over these last few days. Was I wrong? It's not that I don't trust you, he said quietly. I don't have anywhere to go right now. He didn't even have a place to stay? His own uncle threw him out? That bastard was more vicious than I thought. My heart beat faster. And before I could think it through, the words came spilling out. Then stay here. My place is just me anyway. You don't have to worry, no one's going to throw you out. I turned around and saw him standing by the door, leaning against the frame. For a second, I swore his eyes were focused on me. So focused it was like he could actually see. But when I moved, his gaze went blank again. Unfocused. Sightless. Maybe I was just imagining things. Charles Travers, thank you. Honestly, I thought you were just like the others, waiting to kick me while I was down. But you're not. I was wrong about you. I scratched the back of my neck, feeling awkward. Because the truth was, in my last life, I had been just like the others. If I hadn't lived through everything that followed, I probably wouldn't have done anything differently now. I wasn't exactly a model citizen. Never had my priorities straight. Easily swayed by others. But this time, I'd be different. I used to believe anything people told me, naively, stupidly. If not, how else could I have ended up being played so thoroughly by someone like Larry Fuller in my last life? It's really not a big deal, I said softly. Don't overthink it, okay? Once some time passes, I'll take you to a doctor. We'll get your eyes fixed. Okay, Frederick Clark replied gently. Thank you. And just like that, he began living at my place. I wasn't great at taking care of people. Honestly, I kind of sucked at it. Sometimes I even ended up hurting him by accident. But Frederick never minded. He'd comfort me instead. There were moments when I seriously doubted. Was this really the same man who once locked me up in a villa and tormented me night after night? Could someone really act this convincingly? Because the Frederick Clark I knew in this life, he was kind, gentle, strong, thoughtful. Even though he couldn't see, he still looked after me in his own way. But the Frederick Clark from my past life, he was dark, moody, possessive to the point of suffocation, and obsessively lustful. It felt like he came home every day just to drag me into bed. And God help me if I resisted, because saying no only made him rougher. It was like I'd become his emotional punching bag. All the rage, the frustration, he took it all out on me. Yet to the outside world, he was poised, gentle, the perfect gentleman. I saw both sides. And maybe I was just the unlucky one. The one who happened to catch a glimpse of the side of him no one else ever saw. So, which version of him was real? My head ached just thinking about it. But maybe it didn't matter. This time, he didn't like me. That was probably for the best. Last time, the torture probably started because of what happened during that particular phase. When I stood with those people who used to bully him. I was always just standing on the sidelines, letting them mock him, laugh at him. And right when I wanted to walk away, someone saw me. They asked if I still wanted to be with Frederick Clark. What did I say back then? So dirty. I'd never want him. That one sentence. God, it cut deep. And in the end, I paid dearly for it. Frederick had a habit of asking me, in bed no less, still think I'm dirty? And then he'd smear that stuff across my face, lips curling cruelly. You're just as filthy now, aren't you? Bad deeds always come back around. The karma boomerang never misses. I'd been dreaming of those years a lot lately. Of the time I was locked in that villa, day after day. I didn't even know how Frederick reacted when I died. He probably felt relief. After all, he'd made sure I died slowly, agonizingly, by someone else's hand. But truthfully, I couldn't put all the blame on him. Those people who torched the villa were originally targeting him. They didn't know he hadn't come back that night. They didn't know I was the only one inside. It was all just a chain of coincidences. Cruel and precise. I found a doctor to examine Frederick's eyes. Turns out his blindness wasn't that severe. It was treatable. His uncle just didn't want him to recover. So he never got treatment. But now, with proper care, it wouldn't take long for him to see again. In my last life, I wasn't sure when his vision returned. Because by the time he got better, I was already out of the picture. Dragged out of that whole mess by my brother and shipped off overseas. It wasn't until I proved myself that I was allowed to come back. And when I did, Frederick had already taken back everything that belonged to him. His sight. His status. His vengeance. Most of the people who'd crossed him? He'd already dealt with them. So yeah, my return could not have come at a worse time. He was still furious. And I walked straight into the line of fire. This time, I just hoped he'd recover faster. Not for me, but for him. To shorten the time he had to endure unfairness, injustice, humiliation. I couldn't stand seeing that aloof, untouchable man dragged through the dirt. All my jealousy from before. It was just because he didn't love me. Because the one he did love wasn't me. But I'm not that cruel. Not really. Frederick's already started putting his plans into motion. Even though he still can't see, he's out from dawn till dusk. Never tells me where he's going. Just says I shouldn't worry. Every night he comes back, exhausted. Barely holding it together. I don't get it. I just live for food, fun, and naps. Watching him wear himself out like this made me feel kind of useless. So I did what I could. When I saw him passed out on the couch, I tiptoed over and gently laid a blanket over him. Just as I turned to leave, he suddenly grabbed my wrist. I lost my balance and fell right into his arms. "Why didn't you wake me up?" he mumbled. His arm curled around my shoulders. His head rested against my back. It almost looked like I was being held by him. We smelled the same shampoo, same body wash. His breath tickled my skin. His warmth soaked into me. The pose was so familiar. He used to hold me like this all the time. And for a moment, it felt like we were just a regular couple. "I thought you looked tired," I whispered. "Didn't want to bother you." Frederick didn't let go. Instead, he pressed in closer. Chest flush against my back. His cheek nuzzled against my neck. I could even feel the brush of his lips against my skin. "Charles, do you have someone you like?" The question came out of nowhere. I tensed. Why was he asking this? Was it something I'd done? Did he suspect my old feelings? And no, I stammered. "I don't. No one." "Yeah. Come on. Of course not. I've learned my lesson, all right? You don't have to worry about me." Maybe it was something I said. But suddenly he let go of me. "That's good," he said quietly. "I'm going to take a shower." And just like that, he got up from the sofa by himself, not even waiting for my help. Walked straight to the bathroom, empty-handed, obviously expecting me to bring things to him. And every single time, every damn time, he somehow let me catch a glimpse of something. I couldn't tell if he was truly unaware, or just casually throwing me a little benefit. A beautiful man stepping out of the shower. Who wouldn't want to see that? Especially someone like me. Someone who once had a thing for him. And so, life with Frederick Clark fell into a steady, quiet rhythm. He never told me what he was up to. Never asked for help. Never complained. Not that I could have helped anyway. All I could do was step back, let him do what he needed, and try not to get in the way. Edward Howard wasn't pleased with this setup. "What the hell are you doing at home all day?" he asked. "You never come out at night anymore. What? You hiding someone in there?" Before I could even answer, he was already pushing open my front door. Because Frederick was staying with me, I rarely left the house lately. I didn't want to risk something happening to him while I was gone. And since Edward kept trying to drag me out to parties, I had to keep turning him down. I didn't expect him to show up like this. Totally forgot I'd given him the door code. "Holy crap," he gasped, stepping inside. "You really are hiding someone." He caught sight of Frederick Clark sitting calmly on the sofa. His voice was so loud it made Frederick frown uncomfortably. I rushed to Edward's side. "Keep it down, would you? And don't say stuff like that. We're just roommates." Edward looked at me, then back at Frederick. "You're saying you rented out your place, and he just happened to move in?" As if Frederick could pay rent in his current state. Not that I ever planned to ask him for money. "It's not what you think," I muttered. "I'll explain it all later, okay?" Edward wasn't the type to press if I wasn't ready. He dropped it and sat down across from Frederick, eyes scanning his face. Then he nudged me with his elbow. You Are you two together? Wait, what? Charles, I'd like some water. Frederick's voice cut in calmly. And just like that, the urgency to explain vanished. I got up, poured a glass of water, and placed it in his hands. Then I wiped the corners of his mouth with a tissue, like it was just something I always did. Back at Edward's side, I whispered, "Of course not." He wouldn't look twice at me. "You better not be playing dumb." But really, I had no intentions of being with Frederick. Not in this life. Last life's entanglement was already too much. All I wanted this time was for him to be okay, and for me to live quietly. Edward didn't stick around too long. He left soon after. But Frederick didn't seem particularly pleased. "Don't take what he said to heart," I told him. "I get it." "You get what exactly?" Frederick asked, lifting his head. "I know you'd never like someone like me." He was silent for a moment. "Then, what if I said I did?" I froze. "What? Why so sudden?" Before I could even process it, Frederick stood up and pulled me into his arms. Tightly, like he was trying to press me into his chest, into himself. "You've been so good to me," he said. "How could I not fall for you? Maybe it's just gratitude?" "No one gets that kind of urge from gratitude," he murmured into my ear. And then he said something, just two low, suggestive words, that made my entire face go red. This man. When had he started seeing me like that? I didn't give him an answer that night. Just said I'd think about it. And strangely, he wasn't in any rush. He continued with his treatments during the day, quietly working on whatever plan he'd set in motion. He was so calm about it, which made me feel not calm at all. Was he really not afraid I'd turn him down? But then again, knowing how he'd been in the past life, even if I said no, he'd find a way to make sure I never left. Good. This was starting to get messy. And somewhere between the nerves and the confusion, the timeline began to shift. Events that weren't supposed to happen for another 2 years? They started unfolding now. Frederick had already reclaimed what was his. His uncle never saw it coming. Who would have expected a blind man to be this dangerous? His eyes still hadn't healed, which was a shame. Last time, he'd gotten his vision back before the big showdown. This time, something had changed. I was thinking about all this while in the shower, letting hot water wash over me, when the bathroom door suddenly opened. Startled, I covered myself. "Frederick Clark. What are you doing?" "I'm not done." He didn't leave. He shut the door behind him. "It's fine. I can't see anything, remember? You don't have to worry about me taking advantage." That's not the point. This wasn't about what he could see. I just wasn't used to someone being here while I was naked. Yeah, he used to bathe me in the last life. But back then I was half dead from exhaustion. Shame wasn't even part of the equation. "What do you want?" I snapped. "Just say it." "I just wanted to ask. If you found out I'd been lying to you, what would you do?" My hand paused mid-rinse. His tone was calm, but something in it made me uneasy. I turned to face him, water dripping down my face. "What kind of lie?" "A big one. One you probably couldn't forgive." My hand stilled on the towel. I stared at him, confused. "Are you hiding something from me? Why can't you just tell me now? I might not even be mad." I waited, expecting some grand confession. But all he said was, "After everything's over." Frederick Clark still hadn't moved out. Even now, when he was back to being a multi-billionaire CO, he still came back to my place every night after work. Before long, it really started to feel like we were living together. But what could I say? It wasn't like I could just kick him out. His staying didn't affect me much, anyway. Frederick Clark had gotten busier and often came home late. That gave me time to go out again, mostly to meet up with Edward Howard. "I finally get it," Edward said, sipping his drink. "You and Frederick really don't have that kind of relationship. I mean, I thought you'd take advantage of the situation, being so close to him and all." "What do you mean? You haven't heard? The rumors? Everyone in the circle's talking. Frederick Clark's getting engaged. No one's sure who the lucky one is, but it's probably not you, right?" My hand trembled, and a bit of wine splashed out of my glass. "Of course not," I said stiffly. "Well, then it's probably someone else." You seriously don't have feelings for him anymore? I didn't know how to answer, because I had just learned about this too. Of course. I should have known. How could someone like Frederick Clark ever fall for me? He didn't even wait. The second he assumed I had no interest, he started looking elsewhere, lining up potential partners. So heartless. From that day on, I stopped bothering to hide how upset I was around him. Not that he could see my expression anyway. He didn't understand why I was angry. Whatever. I was just unlucky, I guess. That day, he didn't go to work. Instead, he said he wanted to take me somewhere. Where are we going? I asked. Just out to deliver a gift, he said. You've been taking care of me for so long, it doesn't feel right not to give you something in return. A gift? What kind of gift needs a trip out? You'll see when we get there. The farther the car drove, the more off-course it felt. And yet, the scenery looked oddly familiar. Until we stopped in front of that villa. The moment I saw it, my eyes widened in horror. I turned to Frederick. His eyes, once so unfocused and blank, were now sharp, swirling with emotions I recognized all too well. Just like in the last life. The way he would press me down when I tried to escape his touch. The lamp by the bedside always left on. He insisted I keep my eyes on him. Not even a blink. No looking away. The Frederick in front of me now was exactly the man from before. Your sight, it came back. The car had barely stopped before I yanked at the door handle, ready to bolt. But he was faster. He lunged, slammed the door shut, and pulled me into his arms. Don't be scared, he whispered. I won't hurt you. But fear surged up from the depths of my body. The fear of being caged again. Trapped in this villa. Living like a prisoner. I struggled as hard as I could. It didn't matter. Frederick lifted me out of the car and carried me, step by step, back to that house. At the door, he finally set me down. Wrapped his arms around me, pressing me against his chest. Honey, he murmured. If I'm not wrong, you came back too, didn't you? He was reborn. Frederick Clark had been reborn too. The realization hit me like a slap. No wonder he accepted my kindness so easily. No wonder he didn't question my concern. The old Frederick Clark never would have let someone help him. He'd see it as manipulation. So he must have returned not long after I did. You're reborn too? I asked hoarsely. I rushed into the fire that night, he said softly. But you'd already stopped breathing. And all I could think was, if I hadn't kept you by my side, maybe none of that would have happened. So that was him. The one who screamed my name through the smoke and flames. I dealt with them, he went on. All the ones who hurt you. But life without you, it was so boring. So empty. I didn't see the point anymore. So I killed myself. But heaven gave me one more chance. He took my hand, gently rubbing his thumb across my skin. I really did think about cutting ties with you, he said. But you're too soft-hearted, honey. Even after all the things I did to you in the last life, the moment you saw me being bullied, you jumped in to help. I drew in a shaky breath, trying to suppress the anger building inside. If I had known he remembered everything, I never would have stepped in to help him. I couldn't let you go, he murmured. You were too good. You liked me? Even in the last life? But after everything you did to me. Yeah, he said, smiling bitterly. I was pathetic. Even after everything, I still fell for you. But you didn't love me. All you ever wanted was to escape. His arms tightened around me. But you'll always be mine. I couldn't believe it. He loved me? After everything? But now that I thought about it, loving someone who did such terrible things to you, it was like slowly torturing your past self with every beat of your heart. And yet, love makes it impossible to let go. So in the end, it only leaves two people hurting together. A tear slipped down my cheek. It seemed that even with a second life, I still couldn't escape my entanglement with Frederick Clark. You liked me, I said hoarsely. Then why did you reject me when I confessed to you back then? I turned and met his gaze. For once, something awkward flickered in his eyes. At the time, I really didn't, he admitted quietly. I never thought I'd end up liking a man. Just fine. I pushed past Frederick Clark and walked into the villa. It wasn't much different from before, except the garden, now filled with flowers I liked. I didn't linger. I went straight upstairs, to that room. The room that had trapped me. The room that had trapped him too. My eyes brushed past the chains by the bed. I raised a brow at Frederick behind me. What? If I fall out with you today, are you planning to lock me up here again? He shook his head. Then he stepped forward, walked to the end of the chain, and fastened it around his own wrist. This time, he said calmly, it's me. I stood there, staring at him. Charles Travers, he asked softly, do you still want me? As my tears fell, I shut the door. I walked over quickly, shoved Frederick Clark onto the bed, and kissed him. No matter which life it was, my kissing skills were terrible. So bad it made him laugh. Slow down, honey, he murmured. Don't bite. When I was exhausted, I collapsed on top of him, tears streaming uncontrollably. I really must owe you, I muttered. Even with a second life, I still end up tangled with you. You're seriously annoying. His hand rested on my back, patting gently, like he was soothing a child. No choice, he said. Once I had you, I couldn't bring myself to let go again. When I caught my breath, I leaned down and kissed him once more. This time, guided by him, everything flowed naturally. The chain rattled softly with our movements, ringing near my ear. It was the gentlest night. Later, Frederick Clark and I moved. Not to that villa. It wasn't that I minded. He just didn't want to. The fire had left too deep a shadow on him. And the crisis my family was meant to face, Frederick seemed to have resolved it ahead of time. My dad, though, wasn't exactly pleased to see the two of us together. Probably remembered all those warnings he'd given me. Edward Howard was the most annoying of all. Still a cute little top? He teased. I shot him a glare. Say that again and I'll tell your mom to arrange even more blind dates for you. Charles Travers. Is that how you treat your brother? One evening, as Frederick and I left his company together, it started snowing. He reached out, adjusted my coat, then wrapped his own scarf around my neck. I'm not that cold. Your hands are freezing, he replied. He clasped my hands and tucked them into his coat pockets. Frederick Clark. I'm sorry. For everything I did to you in my last life. He smiled faintly. What's there to apologize for? We tortured each other anyway. True enough. I didn't exactly come out unscathed either. From now on, I said softly, let's walk together. Okay. The end.
Thanks for stopping by. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos.